From the studios of the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
The 2014 election is almost here. We have how both parties are preparing for this election before you head out to vote at the polls tomorrow. And students could soon see a new testing system in their schools. We explain the changes that were announced and what others are expected. And in his own words, we hear from a Fallen Valley police officer about his time on the force and an eye-opening experience saving a life.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Tweela Nugent. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with an election 2014 coverage, and even though election day is tomorrow, candidates are still reaching out to voters. The Washington Post named U.S. Representative Ron Barber the second most vulnerable incumbent in the House of Representatives, but a special visitor to the White House hopes she could help Barber keep his seat.
There's a lot at stake in this election.
So much at stake, the Second Lady of the United States made her way from Washington to show support for Arizona Democrats.
I am asking you to take this election into your own hands. If you vote and you work to turn out the vote, Ron and Fred will win.
Ron Barber is running for Congress in Arizona's 2nd Congressional District.
We have one of the most important congressional races in the United States. We all know it. The whole country knows it.
Arizona's 2nd Congressional District is a battleground district, which means an almost even number of registered Democrats and Republicans. This isn't the first time there's been a fight for the seat.
Every election we've had for the last several election periods has been won by the early ballot, and we are assuming we're going to do that again.
Representative Barber won the last election in 2012 against his opponent Martha McSally by only 2,452 votes, but he hopes the strong Democratic stance on education will help him win.
Many issues that separate me and my opponent, but one is clear.
Funding our schools.
No more cuts.
As an educator and
As Second Lady, as a mother, and as a woman, I am asking all of you here today to step up.
Arizona also has one other battleground district, Congressional District 1, where Republican Andy Tobin is looking to challenge Ann Kirkpatrick for her seat in Congress. Reporter Lacey Darrow joins us with a look at how the GOP is preparing for tomorrow. Lacey?
I can definitely tell you that the GOP did not slow down this weekend in preparation for tomorrow's elections.
The group plans to travel all over the state, sticking to the Valley this weekend. They spent time in Chandler, the East Valley, Sun City, and at the ASU Sun Devil homecoming football game, talking with citizens and making a final push for votes. Volunteers in the Phoenix headquarters spent the last few days making final calls to undecided voters. Martha McSally spent her final hours before the elections at Dia de Campo con Martha, held at Reed Park. Today, Doug Ducey, Andy Tobin, Michelle Reagan, Mark Brnovich, Jeff DeWitt, Doug Little, and other members of the Republican Party made stops throughout Arizona on the final leg of the statewide Road to Victory tour. From 11 to 11:45, they were in Lake Havasu City at the Javelina Cantina. From 12:45 to 1:30, they spent time in Kingman at Mr. D's Route 66 Diner. And from 3:45 until just a few minutes ago, they were in Flagstaff, where they just finished up a victory rally at the GOP Victory Office.
Now, tonight, the group will finish up the final stop of their campaigns with a victory rally in Prescott. Now, this event will be held at the Yavapai County Courthouse Square from 6 to 8. Live in the First Amendment Forum, Lacey Darrow, Cronkite News.
The election results here could also be affected by patterns seen in our national government. We head to Washington, D.C., where our reporter Justin McDuffie takes a look at how Arizona races reflect national trends.
Nationally, Republicans are supposed to gain seats in the House, and that could be the case in Arizona, where several of our 9 congressional seats are currently in play. All of those seats are currently held by Democrats.
Arizona is a place where there are a number of competitive elections typically.
Matt Dallek, a political science professor at George Washington University, also said that Democrats across the nation face the challenge of an unpopular Democrat in the White House. That could affect incumbents like Democratic Congressman Ron Barber of Tucson.
The fact is that, candidates like Barber, again, we'll see what happens, but there may not be a ton that they can do if they're in a very tight election, given that his party's president has 40% approval ratings.
Coming off the Obama coalition, largely supported by minorities like African Americans, Latinos, women, and young people, he said that it's going to be young people who help determine these close races.
No matter how disenfranchised they might feel, they do have a voice, and I think that's what's going to ultimately lead to some changes.
In addition to Ron Barber, national publications have named Ann Kirkpatrick as a race that is still a toss-up. And fellow Democrat Kyrsten Sinema is also facing strong opposition by her Republican counterpart. Live in Washington, Justin McDuffie, Cronkite News.
With elections beginning tomorrow, Secretary of State Ken Bennett released a statement today reminding businesses that it is illegal to offer gifts to someone who has voted in the election. In the statement, Secretary Bennett referenced to when George Washington lost his first race in Virginia because his opponent offered free beer and whiskey.
Beyond a sticker that says I voted, anything else of value, food, employment, promise of employment, obviously monetary remuneration, anything like that is prohibited by state law.
Secretary Bennett said that it is a Class 2 misdemeanor if found guilty. And we will be with you on election night with coverage from all across the valley. We'll start off our evening with a special election broadcast right here at 4:30 and then again on PBS 8.1 at 5. Then stay tuned for our Cronkite News Vote 2014 special, which airs from 8 to 10 p.m. on 8 World Digital 8.3. Today, the Arizona Board of Education selected a new test to replace Ames. It's called AZ Merit, short for Arizona's measurement of educational readiness to inform teaching. This new test of literacy and math will help the state assess whether student progress is up to state standards. Arizona's public school students will take the AZ Merit test starting in the spring. The test was created by a national nonprofit group, American Institute for Research. The same group is also revamping standardized tests in 14 other states. Along with addressing students' instructional progress, AZ Merit will be a basis for assigning letter grades to schools. Just last week, the Board of Education voted on a proposal to also allow a series of other tests to determine each school's grade. Reporter Katrina Arroyos went to Arcadia High School to find out how this proposal would impact classroom curriculums.
For Steve Geislinger, a math teacher at Arcadia High School, the thought of a multiple test assessment is a great idea.
I like the idea of having multiple modalities for students to succeed. However, you need to be very careful about implementation.
Some of the tests the Board of Education would like to include within the school's letter grade are the SAT and advanced placement exams, but they will leave it up to the individual school to decide if all students will be required to take the test. As of now, only a few students choose to take the exam. That concerns Geislinger.
I've helped students prepare for those tests. And quite frankly, what you're doing in helping students prepare for those tests is you're helping them learn the game, how to test, not necessarily how to get better at what they're doing.
These tests are different from assessments like the Arizona Instrument to measure standards, but including them will measure a school's success according to the Board of Education.
That would essentially be an audit, that we would have an opportunity to have apples-to-apples comparisons, so parents and policymakers can see how schools are doing. But it wasn't just the be-all, end-all. It was a combination of factors that we can determine how schools are doing.
To transition the multiple test measurement into schools, teachers will have to adjust their curriculum.
We want to get students to understand Arizona college and work career readiness standards.
In order for the plan to take effect, it must be approved by the state legislature and signed by the governor. In Phoenix, I'm Katrina Arroyos, Cronkite News.
The Board of Education will be meeting tonight to begin selecting the components of the new assessment. Earlier today, all it took was someone to mention Ebola at the City of Phoenix Municipal Courthouse, and the facility entered into a hazmat lockdown. Reporters Samantha Davis and Kayla Wall were there to see the emergency response.
Caution tape and hazmat suits kept people away from a potential Ebola situation on 3rd Avenue. But for those inside the Phoenix Municipal Courthouse, the situation was confusing.
Everybody was just calm. I was just like the panic one. I didn't know what was going on.
Phoenix police wouldn't let anyone in or out of the courthouse after a man said he was sick and mentioned a possible Ebola contact. Court staff alerted the authorities and police and the fire department swarmed the scene.
I interviewed the patient and we determined that this individual is not at risk for Ebola, and therefore we were able to have his medical conditions handled in the way that we would handle any other conditions.
Maricopa County Public Health monitors daily anyone in the county who traveled to Sierra Leone, Guinea, or Liberia. There are currently 6 people on their list. Dr. Sunshine said she was very confident that there was no risk of Ebola because the person had not traveled outside of the country and did not have significant exposure to anyone on the list.
Because of what's going on nationally and across the country, you're taking precautions that we typically probably wouldn't see with any other type of illness or complaint of illness.
Although today's incident ended up being a false alarm, Phoenix Police and Fire used this as practice in case of future Ebola emergencies. And even though the first responders and even the ambulance were prepared for the worst, the man was never transported and went to his own doctor for treatment. In Phoenix, Samantha Davis, Cronkite News.
Police say that right now it is unclear if the Ebola remarks made were with the intent to disrupt courthouse events. The investigation is ongoing. Now, for a look at what's next on Cronkite News, let's check in with Brittany Bade.
AARP is now reaching out to a much younger generation, school children, find out how they're planning to help raise the reading levels of Phoenix students. And leaving your pet alone for the holidays can be a difficult decision, but some local kennels are taking steps to ease those worries. We show you how technology is helping to watch over your pets.
Who were the people that got us from there?
A world without glass, clean drinking water, time, or light.
To here.
These were hobbyists, garage inventors, and obsessive tinkerers. These are people who actually made the modern world, who set off an amazing chain reaction of ideas.
It's the story of How We Got to Now with Stephen Johnson, coming in October, only on PBS.
With in-depth analysis with veteran journalist Ted Simons on Arizona Horizon and live reports from the award-winning Cronkite News team. Arizona Horizon and Cronkite News have Vote 2014 election night covered on Arizona PBS. It all starts on 8 HD with Cronkite News at 5, followed by Arizona Horizon at 5:30. Then tune in to 8 World from 8 to 10 for more Cronkite News, including live election returns and voter reaction from the polls. Then join Ted Simons at 10 for live results analysis and meaningful discussion on Arizona Horizon. Arizona Horizon and Cronkite News. It's election night on Arizona PBS. Tuesday night at 5 on 8 HD.
Welcome back to Cronkite News. The city of Chandler is in mourning today after losing 2 police officers last week. The funeral for Officer Bryant Holmes was held earlier today. He was killed by a red light runner last Tuesday. Officer David Payne was killed early Friday morning when his police motorcycle was struck by a drunk driver. Members of our Cronkite News investigative team interviewed Officer Payne just a few weeks ago to talk to him about an award he won for saving the life of a woman who had overdosed on heroin. Our reporter Lauren Hanley joins us now with Payne's story.
Brittany, Officer Payne was a 7-year veteran of the Chandler Police Force. He worked the traffic beat, spending many late nights working to keep our community safe. Officer Payne was kind enough to offer us access and interviews as we investigate the problem of heroin use across Arizona. Tonight we wanted to allow Payne himself to tell his experience of saving a life in his own words.
I showed up maybe 20 seconds after my beat partner did. He was already in the process of getting her out of the car. As I'm coming up to him, he's saying, "I don't think she's breathing." So I just turned around right then, ran back to my car and got a little CPR mask that we have. At the time, you really don't think about it. You know what you have to do, and so you just do it. Fire department showed up a few minutes later. Just prior to them showing up, we had got a pulse back from her, and then probably about another 3 or 4 breaths into it, she actually came around and she kind of, she regained consciousness again. It wasn't until probably the next couple of days that, the reality kind of soaked in. The other officer and I, after we investigated the scene, we actually went to the hospital just to kind of check on her, and just, kind of introduced ourselves. And, it was kind of an eye-opening moment for us and for her, of us basically telling her, you were dead. You were on the road, you weren't alive, you weren't breathing, you had no pulse. I think it was a real shocker for her. But for us, I think, at least for me anyway, it really kind of soaked in a couple days later. It was a good feeling afterwards, especially know that she was going to be okay. But at the time, it was just do what I have to do and get it done.
Officer Payne was 37 years old and leaves behind a 10-year-old daughter and a son due to be born next month. If you'd like to support his family, contact the 100 Club of Arizona. We'll be right back.
Brothers and sisters, can you tell me where to go?
The women were breaking the glass ceiling.
That just thrilled me. We're traveling back in time to help solve family mysteries. No.
Wait, that's
Amazing.
A new deal for the American people.
We wouldn't be who we are without them.
I just gotta get on back to my home at any cost.
Who were the people that got us from there
A world without glass, clean drinking water, time, or light.
to here?
These were hobbyists, garage inventors, and obsessive tinkerers. These are people who actually made the modern world, who set off an amazing chain reaction of ideas.
It's the story of How We Got to Now with Stephen Johnson, coming in October, only on PBS.
I'm standing up for myself and for other people like me.
Wow. This is a bit odd.
Are you okay?
It's kind of insane, but in a good way.
Retirees can now give back to children in a unique way by volunteering with students who read below their grade level. As Sydney Schumann reports, the AARP Experience Corps brought their tutoring program to Phoenix.
Birds like to eat seeds. Crunch, crunch.
Every volunteer in the Experience Corps program tutors 4 children twice a week, with each student getting a 1-hour private session. But the program doesn't just benefit the students.
The most rewarding is seeing that child comprehend and knowing they have the love for reading.
All of our volunteers have very big hearts, and I think that the program brings to the volunteers a sense of purpose, and they feel that they are making a contribution and in many cases giving back.
The program focuses on reading games that foster knowledge through practice, repetition, and pictures.
Whatever words that are hard for them or they think they're going to have problems with, they underline it. And then I go over with a darker pencil, the blue pencil, and I circle that word and find it in the drawing, and that connects with them.
The program has had incredible results nationwide. Statistics show there is a correlation between the inability to read and jail, chronic unemployment, and overall troubled lives.
The ability to read opens so many doors. You need to be able to read to understand math, science, social studies, history, eventually to fill out a job application.
The goal is to get the child not just through elementary school, but to eventually succeed in college and a job. So far, it seems to be working.
I love to read books. I love to read with my sister.
Currently, there are 10 schools in the Phoenix program. In Phoenix, Sydney Schumann, Cronkite News.
Currently, the program has 73 volunteers in Phoenix, and the goal is to have 100. Now let's go over to Tana Hughes with a check of our cooler weather.
Every state in the country is experiencing a lot cooler temperatures than they were about a week ago from today, especially the Midwest, South, and Eastern parts of the country, who had their first snowstorms over their Halloween weekend. As we take a look at our satellite and radar map, we can see the storm coming in over here into Maine. Yesterday, Maine received their first snowstorm of the season, and what the snowstorm it was. They received traffic accidents and power outages all across the state. And the storm began at 8 a.m. yesterday, and the National Weather Service put out a winter warning up until 1 o'clock p.m. today for them. The winter fall was recorded at 7 o'clock p.m. last night, saying that they received 21 inches of snow. And right here we have a storm coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, headed up through Texas into Oklahoma today, and making its way into Louisiana and Arkansas tomorrow and Wednesday. Also, Portland over here receiving some rainfall. And as we take a look at the temperatures across the country, 57 in Portland, 37 in Denver, 60 in Chicago, 62 in Atlanta, 66 in San Francisco. Different temperatures all around the country, but still cool enough to bring in those snowstorms. And as we go into our current temperatures in the valley, 46 degrees in the Grand Canyon, 42 in Flagstaff, 54 in Prescott, 74 in Phoenix, and 68 in Tucson. Headed into tonight, 54 in mostly clear, Into tomorrow, 77, sunny and bright. And taking a look at our 5-day forecast, 54 tonight, leading into a week with temperatures in the low 80 degrees. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Tana Hughes, Cronkite Weather.
Choosing a place to board your pet can be difficult, as reporter Michael Gordon found out. Kennels specializing in doggy daycare are becoming more popular, and they're developing ways to feel better about your pet's stay.
Leaving your pet in an unfamiliar place with people you don't know can be scary. That's why Osana Bravo, director of the Camp Bow Wow Kennel, enacted an open door policy for dog owners, encouraging them to visit at any time.
As long as it's during business hours and they want a tour, we're happy to give them one.
Kennels across Maricopa County are adopting similar measures in order to gain the trust of dog owners. Kennels have also transitioned towards hiring employees who are interested not only in supervision, but becoming familiar with the pet's behavioral patterns.
So we need to be able to have people that are interested in learning about dogs' body language and behavior.
Dogs are then grouped appropriately, according to their behavior. Working for Maricopa County Animal Control, Melissa Gable has learned how crucial it is for pet owners to research potential kennels.
They're not getting inspected on a regular basis, so it's up to us as the pet owner to go out and do those investigations ourselves.
For owners who want to see how their dog is doing while they're traveling, the ability to check in is now just a click away. Kennels are now using technology to help give dog owners peace of mind. With the Camp Bow Wow app, dog owners can access the live feed of any of the camp's 10 cameras, allowing them to check in on their dogs wherever they are at any time.
They are able to see, that there's camp counselors in the yard with their dogs, that the dogs are being, closely monitored.
Bravo knows how hard it is to board a dog. She hopes that the increased openness of kennels in Maricopa County makes the process more comfortable for owners and safer for Arizona's furriest family members. In Peoria, Michael Gordon, Cronkite News.
The demand for premium dog care is expected to continue to grow. A study by the American Pet Products Association found that as of 2013, there were 82.5 million pet owners in the U.S., and by 2018, that's expected to reach 92 million. Let's hand it back over to Tweelon Nugent with a look at what's coming up on Cronkite News.
Up next, Arizona State University had more than just a win to celebrate this weekend. Find out who was inducted into the university's Ring of Honor and what they remember most from their time on the field.
News doesn't stop on Friday at 7:30 at night. PBS NewsHour Weekend is kind of a natural next step. The NewsHour's been committed to being available on air or online, and now weekdays or weekends. There's no shortage of news that's out there, but why do people come to us? To give them some context and analysis that they can't find somewhere else.
PBS NewsHour Weekend, only on PBS. Check local listings.
These extraordinary Americans all share one thing in common, a past they never knew until now.
It's incredible.
In his new season on PBS, Henry Louis Gates Jr. helps them uncover the truth about where they come from.
I can't believe these documents even exist.
Wow. Get to know them as they discover who they really are.
That's pretty amazing.
Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates Jr. starts Tuesday, September 23rd at 8, 7 Central, only on PBS.
I'm free. I'm free. And freedom tastes of reality.
Arizona State had two things to look forward to this weekend, with one of them being an overtime win against Utah. The other had something to do with the acknowledgement of the brotherhood amongst players. Two former ASU and NFL stars were inducted into the ASU Ring of Honor Saturday, and reporter Carrie Osep was at that ceremony.
Inside the ASU Legends Luncheon in Tempe, people gathered to honor two former Sun Devil football greats.
Darren and Eric.
The 2014 inductees share a lot more than their recent recognition. And one of those things is their love for their old team.
I supported wholeheartedly 24/7, ASU down, hat, shirt.
Eric Allen was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in the second round in 1988, and he credits ASU with preparing him for his next steps in his career, both with football and beyond.
ASU was a big part of what I was able to accomplish after football. ASU is huge in my life.
Darren Woodson, 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Dallas Cowboys, can remember what it felt like to enter the stadium after years of not expecting to even attend college.
Walking on the field the first time as a Sun Devil meant so much.
And Woodson showed appreciation to his mother and the others who helped him get to where he is today.
And I had so many people that were in my corner that pushed me. I want to thank them.
And what may be important to the fans isn't so much important to these players.
I forget the wins and losses.
Because they take away something bigger from football.
I don't forget the laughs and the jokes that I had in the locker room. I don't forget the guys that I still have this bond with.
And you see teammates you haven't seen in 20 years, you're right back in the locker room.
In the end, it's about relationships.
And in their new ceremonial jackets, they hope they can be an inspiration like their idols were to them.
So important for the other guys who are playing now to see that, you know, if you do things right, you may get the opportunity to be here too.
In Tempe, I'm Carrie Osep, Cronkite News.
The ASU Ring of Honor was created in 2010. As of this weekend, there are currently 22 players inducted, including former head coach Frank Kush and the heroic legend Pat Tillman. That's it for Cronkite News tonight.
Thanks for joining us. Good night.